All right, I'm just gonna do a quick video, just kind of yap about pure hack mods in general, kind of my thoughts on everything. I wrote down 3 lines of notes on what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the current resources. I want to talk about the state and metagames, and my thoughts on what the future of pure hack mods would be like. In the wild, I might play some games in the background. I might not. It might be kind of hard to focus if I do play games, but whatever. I'll do it. Why not? First thing I want to talk about, the resources. I'm in charge of both ORAS and USUM resources. They are not being updated until after Pure Hackmon's Premier League ends. They're not going to be updated until after that. Because currently, there's still stuff going on. The metagame is still changing. This is kind of, especially for ORAS in particular, this is like Hackmon's Premier League and Pure Hackmon's Premier League are kind of like the 2 times where ORAS specifically gets any kind of development. Now, it has like some games, like the actual tournament games, right? Like that's a decent amount. But there's also a lot of test games as well. I know, like, for me specifically, I think I played somewhere between like 2 and 3 dozen games, just like testing out, like just testing out my team, coming up with game plans and strategies and stuff. I think there were at least like 3 to 4 teams that just got like scrapped entirely. That like we made. They were like decent, but, you know, they weren't really like good enough. You know, I didn't feel confident bringing them to my tournament match, right? So because I know this was kind of like a point of discussion in like the last tournament. It was when Hackmon's Premier League ended. It was kind of talking about, there are some people talking about like, okay, is this like, where do we go in terms of like resources, in terms of meta development? You know, like, okay, this is how many games were played over the tour, which is like a fine way of doing it, but I think some of those test games should also be accounted for, you know, because they do matter. They do matter. So yeah, the metagames are still developing right now, so they're not going to be updated. Current thoughts, I don't think USUM is going to change all that much, personally, in terms of like VR sample teams. Actually, so I want to talk about the sample teams for a second. This one in particular, this Magic Bounce Primal Ground on offense team. People have wanted to get rid of this for a while. And I understand why. I also want to get rid of it, and have wanted to for a decent time as well. However, when it comes to the sample teams, what I kind of want most is the sample aspect. It needs to be, I want it to be like a nice sample of like each like play style, really. Maybe like 1 or 2 teams per play style. And there have been plenty of teams that people have submitted, plenty of teams that I've seen that are good, right? But I want just like a regular offense team. I don't want a hyper offense. I don't want a balance or a semi-stall or a stall team. I want just a plain offense team. And nobody's really submitted any offense teams that I think are suitable to replace this. Eventually, I might just make one myself, but I'm honestly not completely sure. Yeah, so I do want to get rid of this at some point. Hopefully someone will make an offense team, and then I can finally replace this. Because, as some of you might know if you keep up with like Pure Hackmons and stuff, Zenith mode got added probably about a month ago. Wait, was it longer than that? Was it not this long? I don't know. But yeah, Zenith mode got added. I want to get rid of this at some point. Somebody please submit a good offense team so I can get rid of this. In terms of Oras, personally, I think the sample teams are mostly fine. They definitely represent a lot of like the older archetypes, I'd say. But I don't think they're like that bad. We could definitely get some new teams. I'm thinking this one could either be revamped or it could be gotten rid of entirely. This one as well. I think the dual Xerneas hyper offense was only good for like a very specific time. Yeah, I think it was only good for like a pretty like narrow amount of time. Personally, I don't really think it's that good anymore. Not at the moment. Okay, well this is a completely do nothing Pokemon, so I'm just gonna go here. In terms of the viability rankings, for Oras, some stuff definitely needs to be shuffled around, but I don't think it's going to change too drastically. And I know, for example, Probopass is not on here. I'm probably gonna put this in like either C or like B- rank. I don't know, we'll see. I think stuff like Lugia, realistically, can just like get out of here. Kyurem Black, Obama Snow could probably be raised, but I don't think it matters too much, really. In terms of Setpedia, oh my god. So I've been working on Setpedia for like forever. So Gen 7 Setpedia. Well, I promise I've done more work on it than this. Yeah, this was... So the entire non-Wonder Guard Setpedia for Oras is done. Just need to do the Wonder Guard one. This is the old one, by the way. This is the old one, not the one that you should have. Same with, gosh, what was it? Same with Gen 7. Sorry, my attention is kind of split. But yeah, the Gen 7 Wonder Guard Setpedia needs to be done. I've done the entire regular one. I went in the Gen 7 Council chat and asked, hey, can someone do the Wonder Guard Setpedia? Someone said, yeah, I can do it, but I don't know. I guess they got busy or maybe forgot about it. This is probably fine. Sacred Fire might do a decent amount, but it doesn't matter too much. I know Gen 4 Electra probably has that under control. I mean, Electra is pretty active. She's pretty, committed to that. So I don't really see there being any issues with that. Speaking of which, I want to... Let's actually check out. Table teams haven't been updated. That makes sense. They're also probably waiting until Pure Hackmons Premier League ends. So I wonder if Regice probably is not moving up. Deoxys Attack. I could see Deoxys Attack moving up, or like staying where it is. I could also see Latios dropping. Since I am room owner, I can actually see. You actually have access to the Gen 4 council chat on Discord, even though I'm not on that council, so I can see what they're talking about. I know AV Cosmoem has kind of said weather setting laddies are not that great. I think there's a case to be made for drizzle that that's not true, but I think they're fine for drought, especially Latios. I think Latios is a pretty good drought setter, especially if it's not like your lead. Because, first of all, it's a dragon type, so it resists the water. So when you have something like Palkia wanting to click Water Spout in the rain, you can bring in your Latios. It has drought, turns the rain into sun, and it resists the Water Spout. You take very little damage because of Soul Dew boosting your special defense as well. And because of that special defense boost, you also take Spatial Rend pretty well. And you're faster, so you threaten with like Draco Meteor or Spore, or you can heal. You can do all that. I think it's a perfectly fine drought setter, and it's probably what I would like go for first. If I'm thinking, man, who do I want to set drought? I would probably go towards Latios, just because it's good defensively into like rain teams. Right, that's probably what I would do. So I think it's fine. It can probably stay where it is, in my opinion. I think A, maybe A minus, I don't know. I feel like I'm playing a pre-ladder meta with this. Pursuit, Sing, Fissure, Gaster Acid. Just replace Sing with like Trick or something and make this Choice Scarf, and it's like straight out of pre-ladder meta. That's really funny. I don't have a magic bounce of any kind. I do have U-turn though. I am running a kind of slow team. Oh no. If they pursuit me, I'm okay with that. It is a 3-hit KO, which is unfortunate. Alright, let's see here. I can just go ahead and multi-attack. They don't really have great switch-ins to this. If this is innards out, that would suck, but it kind of looks like it's imposter to me on this kind of build. Wow. Other skill. Or not. It is life orb. So potentially has knockoff. go for... I don't really want to go for a Destiny Bond, you know? Especially when it's so low. Slowbro is also risky. And see, when I see Life Orb, I always think knockoff because of that one Bahamut team, but I don't actually know like what they're running on ladder nowadays. So I'll just go right for the Roost. Yep, that's fine. Yep. And then we can go ahead and get this with a U-turn. Didn't wake up. That's fine. Unfortunately, my team is kind of slow. What is your set? You have the Parental Bond set. Switcheroos, kind of scary. I assume they just go right out to Audenobi. They probably don't want to risk that much. I definitely take a Moongeist Beam here from Groudon, especially since it's a -1. So yeah, I'll just go right here. Sunsteel Strike is pretty free. I could go for Shell Smash, but with Doublade low, I'm not super comfortable with it. So I'll just go right for Sunsteel Strike. It does KO the Audino. I'm pretty sure that's a roll. It doesn't always KO there. So I know that... I'll just go right to Slacking. We can click U-turn. Hope we wake up. We do not. Very unfortunate. We'll just go right back out to Slacking. Hello, Gengar. Now, you don't really have great switch-ins to this. I'm comfortable just clicking Moongeist Beam. I'll just go Groudon. Hello, Greninja. This is definitely no good. Alright, we'll just click U-turn. Oh, you're very fond of just clicking Sing, aren't you? They went Chansey last time. I'm comfortable just going out to Groudon here. We can multi-attack. You live. Hello, Gengar. Ooh, very smart. Unfortunately, this means my Groudon is faster than your Greninja. It also means that I can go Slacking very safely and get up a Toxic Spike. I'll go ahead and click Pursuit here. If we KO this Gengar, that would be very nice. We do not. You go right out there. I'll click again. I did expect Chansey, but that's fine. Now, what's unfortunate for me is that since they still have Gengar, they can get up a Toxic Spike pretty freely. Let's get right out for the Sunsteel Strike. Yep. Does quite a lot. Unfortunately, I do get the 3-turn sleep. That's no good. Oh no. Oh man, I keep getting 3-turn sleeps. Yes, it's very obnoxious. There we go. I can pretty easily go. Well, you've been getting 3-turn sleeps this entire time. It was bound to happen at some point, only a 2-turn. I'll just go right up to Mewtwo. Hello, Gengar. And then we just click Pursuit. And now we should simply just very nice. Now back to the topic at hand. Let's just go ahead and talk about state of various parameters. Alright, so there's been a lot of discussion on the quality of these metagames recently. My thoughts is that use some pure hackmons is likely the best one. And I know the current opinion around Gen 7 is that it's kind of matchup fishy. And I even remember saying in one of my matches, in my match against Aerobe specifically, in Hackmons Premier League, I said, this metagame feels like playing rock, paper, scissors. While that is true to an extent, I was definitely tilting at the time and I was exaggerating. The more skilled play, you can play your way out of a bad matchup. You can do it if you're good enough at the game. And that's good. But there is like a significant amount of, like there are many cases where you have a genuinely like good team that is well equipped to handle most of the threats in the metagame, but there are just like certain things it just auto loses to. Like you just can't do anything about it at all. You just instantly lose to it. GG, game over. Like you lost the instant you loaded the team. This is in contrast to I don't know, let's say Gen 6 pure hackmons, where yeah, sometimes if you load like really weird sets, you can instantly lose. Or if your opponent loads up like some weird stall team like I did, like, yeah, there's no like real way for you to win. But on the whole, that's rarer. And this has caused a lot of people, including myself, to be rather frustrated with the metagame. But I still think it's the best one. And I think the reason why can be found in what people complain about for each generation. Because, you know, everyone likes complaining, they do it all the time, everyone loves it, including myself. I also complain. And once you take a look at what people complain about when it comes to each generation, you'll notice that with Gen 7, it is primarily the fact that it's kind of matchup fishy. And with every other metagame, the complaints are about the moment-to-moment gameplay. In Gen 6, people complain about there's too much RNG involved. Like with all this chatter, I feel like I can't hit my moves. I feel like I can't make any progress because of like taunt, because of chatter, because of all this dumb shit, and like Dark Void and all of that. In Gen 4, it's people mostly complain about like shadow tag. Like, hey, if I click the wrong move once in the entire game, like a shadow tag Pokemon can just come in that I don't know about because there's no team preview. It can just click Encore, Dragon Dance 6 times, and sub past like Mold Breaker Rayquaza and like instantly win because there's no counterplay to that. Right, like that's the thing that people complain about. When it comes to like Gen 8, people complain about it feels like the core gameplay here is just hitting 30% accuracy checks over and over, and like positioning yourself to either avoid them or get as many chances to use those as possible. But like that's like you'll notice for like all of these, people are complaining about like the actual like what goes on in the battles. People do that for Gen 7, but from what I've noticed, they do it to a lesser extent. Because there are things you can complain about when it comes to Gen 7. There's like Harvest slacking, there is innards out, there's like crystal free Z moves, CFZs, there's comatose, like there is bullshit in this generation. But people don't really complain about that as much as they do the matchup fishing. Why? Well, in my opinion, it's because the moment-to-moment gameplay of Gen 7 pure hackmons is the most fun. It is the most fun of them. When you're not like frustrated, when you're not like tilting because you're in an auto boost situation, right? In a neutral, like in just like a regular game, the moment-to-moment gameplay of Gen 7 is the most fun of all of them, in my opinion. And I think a lot of other people kind of feel the same way. Because people are willing to put up with a lot of bullshit if it means that fun strategies are viable. And I think that's partially why ORAS is getting a lot more hate nowadays than it used to. It used to be the paragon of like pure hackmons. Like this is the only balanced pure hackmons metagame. All of the others are shit. This is the only good one. In fact, there's that one video of like why ORAS pure hackmons is the only good one. Yeah, why Gen 6 pure hackmons is the only good one. This came out 2 years ago. Right. So for a long time, it really was like this, like Gen 6 is the best one. It's really good. It's the only balanced one at all. But the reason, in my opinion, why people don't like it now isn't because of chatter or taunt on its own or anything like that. In my opinion, it's because a lot of the fun strategies that that used to make ORAS diverse and unique and exciting are not viable anymore. Like, just straight up, they do not work. A lot of ORAS is you stick to like the same few moves that you need to use in like certain situations, and like you spam brokens or you spam counters to those brokens. It's kind of like the current state of the metagame. Let's take a look at some of the older games. Because I have archived them. You see these teams. Mega Altaria. You'll notice you have 2 Mold Breaker Pokemon. You have one Wonder Guard. Sorry, excuse me. This is a Wonder Guard, not a Mold Breaker. But yeah, this is a very, this your Primal Ground is imposter proof by Mega Swampert, improved by Feedon, etc., etc. You go through all these. Wonder Guard, Spooky Plate, Arceus offense. You have some Mega Venusaur balance. You have some Shadow Tag stall. Cresselia, like Sailor Moon's Quest. You have some dual Diancie stuff. Like all of this. What it comes down to is, as long as you had like the basics down, you can construct pretty much like any team around those basics, and you could pilot it against like other top players very well, and you didn't have to be like some sort of like god to do so. What I think is different now is that you are very much restricted to using these uncompetitive moves like Chatter, like Taunt, and Pokemon like this Mold Breaker Mega Rayquaza, like the Mold Breaker Primal Groudon. Like, you have to use these broken stuff if you don't want to lose, or you either have to do that, or you have to do some weird shit like I did that basically counters all of those. It feels like the fun strategies just are not as viable as they used to be. And I think that's the main reason why ORAS is getting a lot of hate. The problem isn't like Chatter or Taunt inherently. If like the fun stuff was still around, if you could still like be creative, if you could still make a viable team with like just getting like the basics down and then being able to like pilot that, I don't think people would care as much. I really don't. But it feels like we've gotten to a point where most of the fun strategies just are not very viable, not nearly as much as they used to anymore. And I think that comes down to it. And like in USUM Pure Hackmons, there's like a huge variety. Everything from like stall to hyper offense is good, pretty much. You can come up with all sorts of creative stuff, and it'll just like it'll work if you know how to use it. Like this Trick or Treat Veltal balance that AV Cosmoem. They have had fantastic success with this team, and it's a very like interesting sort of build here. We had innards out spam from Lag is Bad, another very like fun team to use. You have a whole bunch of balance that I made that's kind of mid. Yeah. You just have like so much stuff you can do in Gen 7. And I think because of that, people don't complain about its moment-to-moment gameplay as much as they do other formats. And that is why I think that Gen 7 is going to last the longest. Because people in general enjoy playing it moment to moment. Yes, it can be frustrating when you load into a terrible matchup and it feels like you can't do anything about it and all that. That's extremely frustrating. I agree with that. It sucks. but when it comes down to it, I'll just say it again, the moment-to-moment gameplay is just more fun. You can just do more things you can just do more things in Gen 7 than you can in any other generation. People have been getting into like Gen 4 recently. I like Gen 4. It's kind of been on the rise. I like it. I think it's fun. But ultimately, I think when people figure out how to properly abuse Shadow Tag, I think that's when it goes into shitter. I think that's when people start hating on that one too, because Shadow Tag is like a real like giant like red flag, like flashing alarms, like sirens blaring. Like it's not good. It's terrible. Shadow Tag is like broken as shit. And I think eventually, once people figure out how to abuse that properly, I think everyone's going to start hating on it, because then the moment-to-moment gameplay won't be very fun. I like it right now. I think a lot of other people like it right now. Those who have played it at the very least. But yeah, I think once people figure out how to use Shadow Tag, I think it's pretty much over then. Okay, final future of pure hackmons. So I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I've thought about it some over like the past few months. Eventually, pure hackmons is gonna die. Just like straight up, it's not gonna be around. It's not going away in the next year, probably not the next 2 years. I don't know when it's going to happen, but long term, it is going to die. Why? Firstly, all future generations of hackmons, pure hackmons, are fucked. They're fucked. Neutralizing gas. So actually, you know what? I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna paint a picture here, okay? So, when Gen 8 released, people were very excited for the new Pure Hackmons content. What does this have to offer us? Wow, we have this new Zacian thing. We have this new Tournamax thing. Wow, this is so cool, etc. Then shit kind of got wacky. Neutralizing gas was broken as fuck. You put it on a Tournamax, it's broke. It's crazy. Then Overflow was discovered. Things like just being able to like double your HP or whatever it was. It was either that or like doubling the power of certain moves, like Water Spout or whatever. And they were like just like 300 base power moves. And it was just like ridiculous. And so people didn't like it. Eventually, the dominant strategy emerged. The primary way of dealing damage, you either get like a mixed sweeper, something like Obstagoon with like power trip and I don't know, like stored power or whatever. I don't fucking know the meta. You either get like a mixed sweeper, or you use Fissure and Sheer Cold and Horn Drill and all that. And people didn't really like it. It got a bunch of hate. It got a monthly ladder. It never came back it actually came back once after that. People still didn't like it. And now, yeah, people just don't really like that metagame that much. There's been some discussion about it recently, and how maybe it's not that bad, actually. But the general consensus overall is that it's pretty trash. And in this Gen 8 period, we still had hope that, okay, this metagame sucks, but in Gen 9, it could still be good. And this is when, by the way, this was still when we knew that neutralizing gas was like cancer and like shit. Even after BDSP came out, neutralizing gas was in that, and it was Arceus, and everything was cancer, and it was terrible, and nobody liked it. Actually, that's not true. Bahamut liked it for a little bit. but eventually it died out, and people looked back on BDSP as just being kind of shit. But even during this time, there was still hope that Gen 9 was going to be good, even with neutralizing gas still around. Why? Because of Radical Red pure hackmons. Kind of. Not. So, there's this ROM hack called Radical Red. You might have heard of it. It has its own showdown server. So I can go to it. Here it is, play.radicalred.net. If you go to the team builder here, you'll see that, okay, well, they used to have pure hackmons. It seems they have deleted that, though. Okay, well, they had pure hackmons in here at one point. It was a couple of years ago, so many updates at this point. Many for Radical Red. Anyway, neutralizing gas was in this Radical Red pure hackmons metagame. So was Eternamax, except it had its stats changed, so it wasn't like a bulky behemoth. And I played it some. I think Roxy played it some. I think Sheeplol played it some as well. But we were playing it and we were like, this is not that bad. And it really wasn't. We played like maybe like 20 games that I can remember total. And we were like, this is kind of not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it was kind of, you know, kind of like whoever is able to get the shell smash first has like a 90% chance of winning on the spot. So like all the strategies were about like denying shell smash and being able to like tank one hit from a shell smash user and like whirlwind them out or something like that. But yeah, we were playing it and we're like, okay, this isn't that bad. Like there can still be like perfectly like fine metagames with the neutralizing gas still in it. And so we thought if maybe like Eternamax or something, it gets axed from Gen 9, which it did. You can't use Eternamax in Gen 9, even with like hacks and shit. Then we had hope that, wow, it could still be good. Because neutralizing gas, while it makes metagames worse, doesn't inherently make them unplayable or complete garbage or doo-doo. Now, most people were not aware of this Radical Red pure hackmons thing. And the general consensus, gosh, it's kind of hard to remember. I think the general consensus at the time was that, okay, there's a chance that neutralizing gas will like fuck over hackmons permanently. Though there were some people who had the sentiment of like, okay, pure hackmons is dead. Neutralizing gas and Eternamax forever is just gonna make everything horrible. There were some people with that. But overall, we were hopeful. Then, Gen 9 is close to releasing. Appropriate music. Gen 9 is close to releasing, and we start getting leaks about this new item called the Ability Shield. Called the Ability Shield. Now, we were very excited about this because we knew it blocked ability suppressing stuff. Now, we didn't know the extent to it at the time, but we thought, okay, this stops neutralizing gas. Right? If we made that assumption that it stops neutralizing gas, then suddenly that becomes a lot more manageable. Maybe it's not complete doo-doo garbage, okay? That gave us hope. And furthermore, if we saw that if it blocks neutralizing gas because it was ability suppressing, quote unquote, at the time, is what we knew about it. So we made the hesitant assumption of if it blocks neutralizing gas, but not something like mold breaker, it only blocks things like neutralizing gas and gastro acid that actually like say that the ability is suppressed, but not Mold Breaker, then we would get something akin to like a Gen 6, Gen 5 thing where the the Mold Breaker Wonder Guard is like the primary dynamic of like offense and defense, and we would get something more akin to that, and it would be a lot better. And so we were very, very hopeful. Go up to Scarlet and Violet release day, our hopes were fucking shattered. Not only did the ability shield not work like we thought, it blocked Mold Breaker as well. We were very sad about that. But there's a lot more shit introduced that permanently fucking ruined pure hackmons. Revival Blessing. Revival Blessing is mostly what did it. You can just revive shit, and you can put it on any Pokemon because this is pure hackmons. And furthermore, you can call it with Sleep Talk. So of course, what does this mean? You start using Comatose plus Sleep Talk to call Revival Blessing. And you could just revive your Pokemon 16 times. It's crazy. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. Furthermore, you had all the Torque moves that got introduced. So now, which are not called by Sleep Talk. So you can run Sleep Talk, Revival Blessing, and then like 2 Torque moves or whatever. So you don't have to be running like garbage doo-doo moves that don't get called, like a fucking assist or whatever. I don't know. Like, you can have actual real moves that don't get called by Sleep Talk. Is ridiculous. And Comatose is not suppressed by neutralizing gas either. Additionally, we quickly learned there were some pretty disgusting, busted, broken moves that were not Revival Blessing. Things like Last Respect's Rage Fist, Population Bomb, with like huge base powers. The one that caught on the most, Last Respects, because who knew it pairs very well with reviving all of your shit, and it goes up to a maximum base power of 5050, so it can just kill anything in one hit if it's able to hit. Yeah, it was terrible. So now, and to top it all off, Ability Shield, which we thought was going to be possibly like the savior of pure hackmons, ended up making everything worse. It made shit worse, because now you really cannot hit Wonder Guard. You can't hit it with Mold Breaker Pokemon, you cannot hit it with Neutralizing Gas Pokemon, you cannot hit it with Mold Breaker moves. If something has Wonder Guard, you straight up cannot hit it. You straight up cannot damage it, unless it is residual damage with like status or like sandstorm or weather or something like that, or like entry hazards. Or you hit them with a super effective move. So it made everything much, 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 much worse. And so now, we don't just have Neutralizing Gas, that is the potential ruiner of pure hackmons forever. We also have Ability Shield. We also have Revival Blessing. We also have Comatose. We also have, we have so much we have Last Respects. We have so much stupid shit now that's just, there's no way any future generation of pure hackmons is going to be any good unless they Dexit. Not only do they Dexit Wheezing, but they also just straight up remove its ability from the game code. Like for example, BDSP, Wheezing is not, sorry, what am I saying? Like Galarian and Wheezing is not in the game. Neutralizing Gas is, for example. So yeah, it's still they just keep the same ability and move and all that. They keep all that code. They just carry it from game to game. So not only do they have to go into the code and physically remove Neutralizing Gas, make it unusable or whatever, but they also need to remove Ability Shield. They also need to remove Revival Blessing. They also need to remove, it's ridiculous. They need to remove Last Respects. They need to remove Comatose. all of this. So, yeah. That is to say, future generations of pure hackmons are not going to be any good. So we're left with what we have right now. Generations 1 through 9. Nobody likes Gen 9, nobody likes Gen 1. So that realistically leaves Gens 2 through 8. Which are all going to die in popularity eventually. People don't like ORAS that much anymore. I still like it. I think it's very fun. But we can't just like live on ORAS USUM DPP forever. Like, it's not gonna happen. So eventually, like long term, like a long term, we could try some like pure hackmons, but we get rid of the cancer. Like, you can name all the bullshit about each pure hackmons generation, right? I was talking about it earlier. In Gen 6, you remove Dark Void, you remove Chatter, you remove Taunt, or whatever. You remove Mega Rayquaza, whatever, just something like that. But this has already been tried twice before. I believe the first time we called it Neo Hackmons. It died very quickly. The second time we tried it, it was called like Hackmons Rebalanced or whatever. It also died very quickly. Why? Because nobody was interested in it. So if we can somehow make, like, I don't know, if we can make it like more popular, I guess that could be viable as a way to sort of increase the longevity. There's not really pure hackmons at that point, obviously, because it started. So the idea actually started as, what if we do Gen 8 but we don't have a Eternamax? Like, what is it like then? And it kind of ballooned into this whole thing of like, let's just remove all the bullshit from each generation and then play that. Nobody was really that interested in playing it. There were some people. It went on for like a couple of months each time. But eventually everyone just lost interest. So I think when it comes to the future of pure hackmons, like the long-term future, because it's kind of at its peak right now, in terms of popularity, in terms of the amount of people playing it, in terms of, I don't know, status, I guess, quote unquote, like we have actual tournaments for pure hackmons now. Something like that. It's kind of at its peak, in my opinion. Is it going to go down from here? Is it going to go up from here? I don't know. But comparing it to all times previous, like, it's more popular than ever. Except for... Nah, whatever. I don't know. Been recording for a while. But yeah, in terms of like super long term, it's gonna have to be like we do, I don't know, like I don't know what we do, because we tried like pure hackmons UU for a bit. It was fine. It was kind of fun, but it's not. It's clear that pure hackmons UU is not really viable as a means of, in my opinion, it's not viable as a means of like keeping pure hackmons around, you know. So, and if we do something like the hackmons rebalanced, like the Neo hackmons or whatever, then at that point, it's basically just balanced hackmons 2. It's balanced hackmons 2.0, except like a version that less people are going to be interested in, a version that less people are going to want to play, and the OM staff are going to have who cares about having a balanced hackmons 1 and a balanced hackmons 2 when the balanced hackmons 2 is not very popular? Like, who gives a shit? Like, why would they, you know, like, why would the OM staff be like, yeah, let's keep this around, actually? It makes no sense. So I don't really see that being viable either. So in terms of the future of pure hackmons, we pretty much just gotta hope that future generations are not gonna be abysmal dog shit somehow. Either that, or it goes into like alternative formats. Like pure hackmon sort of expand, like the pure hackmon's room sort of like expands its scope and covers like all sorts of like alternative formats, including like custom game, including this like neo hackmons shit or whatever. Something like that. But yeah, I don't really know. And to be honest, it's not really like a pressing problem. It's not an issue right now. It's not going to be an issue for a while. Pure hackmons descending into like irrelevancy or whatever. Like with like it's dying off, nobody wants to play it anymore. I don't think that's going to happen for a while, because again, we're kind of at pure hackmons is kind of at its peak right now, so I don't think it's going to happen for a while. But I don't know, just some thoughts. I don't really have anything else to talk about. This was me just kind of yapping, just having a chill time, just yapping. Yeah, I'm just gonna end it now.